All right, let's dive into a fascinating lecture by the 19th century theologian Abraham Kuyper. We're going to unpack his big idea that Calvinism wasn't just another flavor of religion, but an entire blueprint for life, a complete worldview. Let's see how he builds his case.
So Kuyper kicks things off with a really bold claim. He argues that back in the 16th century, Calvinism didn't just slowly evolve. Nope, it basically exploded onto the scene, and with incredible speed, it built this complete worldview that seemed to have an answer for everything from God to government.
And that, of course, leads to the big question we're going to tackle. Where did all that incredible energy come from? What was the engine behind this worldview that, in Kuyper's opinion anyway, modern thought has totally failed to match? To find that secret, Kuyper says we have to start at the very beginning, at the foundation. He breaks down how Calvinism defined what religion even is by answering 4 absolutely fundamental questions. Let's walk through them.
First up, and this one is the big one, what is religion actually for? Is it here for us, a tool to make our lives better? Or is its purpose something else entirely? You see, Kuyper argues that most religions are, at their core, kind of selfish. They're there to help us, to give us comfort. But he points out a huge flaw. As soon as we feel safe and prosperous, that kind of religion starts to fade away. Calvinism's answer is the complete opposite. Religion isn't for us, it's for God. Its beginning, middle, and end is all about glorifying Him, which makes it a constant, powerful force in your life, whether things are good or bad.
The second question flows right from that first one. How does a person actually connect with God? Is there a middleman? Is there something or someone standing in between? And you can see the logic building here, right? If religion is all for God's glory, then no human can stand in for another person's relationship with Him. So Calvinism insists on a direct line. No priest, no saint, no institution gets to be the mediator. And the result of that? A really radical sense of spiritual independence and freedom of conscience. Okay. Question number 3. Once you have that direct connection, how much of your life is it supposed to touch? Is it just a Sunday thing, a private affair, or is it something much, much bigger? A lot of people try to wall off religion. You know, they put it in a box for their feelings or for church, and then they have another box for the rest of their secular life. Well, Calvinism says no way. It demands that religion soak into every single part of your life. It's not a dual system, it's monistic. Everything, your intellect, science, art, your job, it all has to be dedicated to God. And finally, the fourth foundational question. This one is all about salvation, what theologians call soteriology. Does religion see humanity as basically good and just needing a little tune-up, or are we fundamentally broken and in desperate need of a rescue? Calvinism's position here is crystal clear. It's soteriological. It doesn't view sin as just a little imperfection or some developmental stage we'll grow out of. No, it sees sin as a catastrophic fall from a perfect state. And that means true religion can't just be about self-improvement. It has to be a divine rescue mission, which means you need regeneration and a clear, divinely inspired instruction manual, the Scriptures. So now that we have that 4-part foundation poured, let's see how the walls and the roof of the church get built on top of it. Because the Calvinist idea of the church is a direct consequence of everything we just covered. At its heart, the real church isn't a building you can point to on a map. It's this huge, spiritual body of all believers from all of history and all over the world. Its true center, its headquarters, isn't on earth at all. It's in heaven, with Christ as its head. And thinking about the church this way has some pretty radical consequences for how things work down here on earth. For instance, if the true sanctuary is in heaven, you don't really need an earthly priesthood. Ministers are just equal servants. It also leads to a more democratic church government, where power flows from Christ down to the congregation itself. And get this, it even explains why there can be many denominations, because no single earthly group can ever claim to be the one perfect expression of that invisible, heavenly reality.
Okay, so we've got the foundation of religion and the structure of the church. But how does this all actually play out in everyday life? In your moral choices, especially when you throw in that famous, and let's be honest, often misunderstood, doctrine of predestination.
Kuyper sets up a really powerful paradox here. For centuries, critics have said, look, if you believe your salvation is already decided, why bother being good? It should make you morally lazy, right? And yet, when you look at the historical record, its biggest fans, like the Puritans, were known for being almost unbelievably serious about morality. What's going on? The answer to that paradox isn't some tricky logical loophole. It's psychological.
The absolute core of Calvinist morality is this deep, powerful belief that you are always, every single moment, living before the face of God. And when you believe that, it creates this constant awareness of His rules for every part of life and this intense internal drive to obey them and bring your life back into alignment with His perfect order.
This moral seriousness led to some really clear lines being drawn against certain worldly activities. And what's super interesting is the reasoning. It wasn't that these things were seen as evil in and of themselves. Card playing was a no-go because it put your faith in lady luck instead of God's providence. Theaters were out because of the moral cost to the actors. Dancing was seen as a gateway to impurity. It was all about avoiding anything that could poison that core principle of living your whole life before God.
Okay, let's zoom out and put it all together. Let's see how these three massive pillars, religion, the church, and morality, all lock into place to form that complete building, that blueprint for a worldview that Kuyper was talking about from the very start.
Here it is, the whole system in a nutshell. You can see the domino effect, right? It all starts with a God-centered religion, built on His sovereignty. That foundation leads directly to a church defined by spiritual liberty. And then that free church produces a person who is driven by this deep moral purpose in every single thing they do. Each piece just logically builds on the last one.
And for Kuyper, the proof is in the pudding. He's basically saying, look, this wasn't just some abstract theory. This was a worldview that actually produced people across entire nations of incredible moral strength, self-control, and high ideals.
And all of this leaves us with a really big question for our own time. In an age where a lot of us are searching for some kind of solid moral foundation, what, if anything, can we learn from a worldview that once gave so many people such an unshakable, world-shaping conviction?